Hello, anti-novelists, Lilligans, friends, curious onlookers. Welcome back to the library. It is a sweltering hot day on the cattle ranch in Missouri. I think the heat index today is like 110. So, oh yes, I'm hiding in here with you. Welcome to this episode of Zettelkasten with Fiction, where imagination finds order. I'm going to continue a little down the road of numbering. Before I do that, I got a question. Victoria, why do you call yourself the anti-novelist? You're writing a novel. Are you against it? Very funny, Jennifer41. But there's a serious answer. Anti, in terms of anti-novelist or anti-net, as my fearless leader and guru Scott Scheper calls it, the anti-net Zettelkasten, anti does not mean against. Anti is actually an acronym that helps to remind us of where we came from and where we're headed. So let's break that down real quick, and then we're going to get into some numbering. The A. What does the A in anti-net or anti-novelist stand for? It stands for analog, because everything that we do is an analog system. It's handwritten on cards the whole way. That doesn't mean that down the road, when you start creating your content and editing and doing some of those advanced writing maneuvers, that you aren't going to digitize, because I do. You know, I do my drafting in Scrivener. But that's after I have done my analog handwritten work, which is where the real magic happens. So that's A. N. What does N stand for? N stands for numeric alpha. Because you'll notice when I get over here talking about some of my advanced numbers, every card in your Zettelkasten notebox has an alphabet, a letter of the alphabet, and a number. And mixing those two things together into a cohesive address is how you file and later find all of your cards that you're creating your information, capturing your ideas on. T. What does the T stand for? That's what we're going to look at today. T is for tree-like. It describes the tree-like branching structure that a Zettelkasten takes when you start to expand on and build out your ideas. And finally, I. I is for index, because the entire Zettelkasten is governed by one cohesive index that is put together by capturing key terms or key words. And it's those key words that allow you to get back to your numbers and your alphanumeric address system that take you back to each card. So, super handy. Nicholas Luhmann put together the notebox, aka the Zettelkasten system, as a way to catalog, chronicle, and collect information for the sole purpose of creating output. The man was extremely prolific in his book and paper writing, and so following his example, in my mind, is a good fit. So, here we go. Let's look at some of that tree-like numbering structure. These are some cards that I have captured about the Archangel Raphael. This is a key portion to the story structure and the governing bodies of the novel that I'm writing, which I have set aside for a short time to finish writing this book, Zettelkasten for Fiction, for you. So, I thought this would be a good example to show you. So, I've got the herbs that were given to Noah by the Archangel Raphael. So this card is numbered 1706.1. So the card behind this one is 1706.1/1, and it's specific to these herbs. So because this second card informs this stuff on the first card, it gets the same number, but it gets a /1, which tells me that one goes behind this one, right? So see, we're already starting a little bit of a tree-like structure because it's starting to branch off in this 1706.1 direction. So then let's jump over to 1707. You'll notice I've gone from 1706 to 1707. In this way, I'm talking about the heavenly hosts, or the army of God. And under that, I've made a note to myself, the angels and the archangels. So you can see I'm categorizing for myself, what does this group of beings look like? At 1707. Here's a second 1707 card, which a little further describes them. And then I'm asking myself, some questions that have bearing on the novel that I'm writing. So I'm just using this card to talk to myself. So I've not given it its own number. It just sits in that pool of 1707. Here, I have a 1707A. That tells me that this card immediately follows behind my 1707s. So if I were to have a 1707/1, that card would go after the A card, because in my mind, what makes sense to me is 1707 is followed by any letters that keep subsequent cards together, and then the /1 would come later after these little letters that keep these cards together. So then, oh, lo and behold, I have 1707/1. So see how those follow from each other? I've got the 07, I've got the 07A, and then I've got the 07/1. The /1 tells me that this is the first in a series of cards. Oh, but behold, before I go on to the next one in the series, I've added a 1A card. So again, that tells me that the 1A comes before a 1/ or a 1 dot. Now, don't get too far in the weeds with this. This is just what makes sense to me. In my mind, a single letter next to a number always comes first, a / always comes next, and then I can start branching those out based on subsequent cards that have relation to each other. It's like you're going to place the next card by the card that is the most similar to it. And so I'm just branching this out as I go. The next installment is 1707/1.1. So I know that the little letter always comes before anything else. So I've got the 1A card, and then I've got the /1.1 card. And then I've added a few to this group. So I've got the .1, I've got a .2, okay? I've got a .3. So I've got 3 cards in this sequence, /1.1, /1.2, /1.3. Those are all attributes cards that are just filling in details about this archangel. So you can see as I continue on, I finished my /1s. So as I move on to the next major concept, I'm going to label that a /2. And therein begins my /2.1. And then comes my /3. And then my /4. Oh, and then I've got a card related to my /4, so it's a 4.1. Then the next one in the series is a 4.2. Oof, I've got a 4.3. So, do you see how those begin to branch out, beginning at 1706.1, following through the /1, then going to the 1.1, 1.2, and 1.3, and then /2, 2.1, /3 and 4, /4.1, 0.2, and 0.3. So it all follows together. Now, the most important thing about this is do not get hung up on the numbers. You can't mess this up. That is the beauty of the Zettelkasten. As long as you are consistent with how you group things, first in your mind and then in your cards. That's the most important thing, in my opinion. Think of it this way. I'm always going to put things to do with the Archangel Raphael in this section. Okay, so we're looking at 1706 and 1707. I know that's where these things live. So if I'm thinking about what herbs were mentioned or used in biblical literature, or what are the references to the Archangel Raphael, or let's look at a card. What are, in Freedom, Oklahoma, in the United States, there is a gypsum cave that houses alabaster, and alabaster is sacred to the Archangel Raphael. So when I see alabaster, I'm always going to think Archangel Raphael, because in my story world, that's important. So I know if I come across some research on alabaster and its uses, my mind is immediately going to go Archangel Raphael, because that connection is already made in my brain. So I know I can go to my index and I can look up alabaster, I can look up Raphael, I can look up Archangel, and under each of those key terms, those card numbers will be listed. So I will always be able to find my way back to them. See why it doesn't necessarily matter that the numbers are perfect and sequential and make absolute sense? They don't have to. As long as you put the things that you consider like with other things that you consider like and that you relate together in your mind, then you're going to index all of those items under their key terms, and those key terms in your index will be numbered in such a way that they will always bring you back to this section. So thank you, Jennifer 41, I believe it was, for the question about the anti-net. I'm not anti-novel at all. I am pro analog, numeric, alpha, tree-like, and index structure, which helps you corral all of your information in such an intuitive way that you can always find it using your index in your notebox. So thank you for the question. Tomorrow in our video, we will get back to discussing scenes and sequels, and we're also going to delve a little bit into plotters, pantsers, and puzzlers. So, as always, thank you for your time. I appreciate it very much. I know it is a precious resource, and I am grateful for it. And I'm also grateful for every single subscriber. You guys are awesome. So keep the questions coming. Don't forget to share and like, and please do subscribe if you find value so that other people can find this stuff. And I will see you all tomorrow.